Shocks and struts come to mind when our car doesn't feel as comfortable as it used to. And as time goes by and our car gets a little more age on it, we tend to be a little less concerned about that comfort and a little more concerned about reliability and dependability. So when our mechanic tells us on our older car that we should replace our shocks and struts, the question is, if we're just concerned about reliability, then why bother? Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Mechanical Moments at Mercie J. I'm your host, Rick Smith, Certified Master Technician. So before I talk about shocks and struts, I just want to make one thing clear. They have basically the same function, so I will use the term shock and the term strut interchangeably. So, first of all, our car's weight is supported by a spring. And if we look at this slinky, springs are very unstable, and that instability is what makes a slinky a blast. But that's the first purpose of a shock, is to help stabilize that instability from a spring. And so when we go over large bumps, our car doesn't necessarily bounce, but what it does is it's unstable. It's like a boat on waves. It kind of floats around, and we'll probably notice it most like when we're in a turn, the car will want to push to the outside of the turn. So that's the first function of our shock or strut, is to provide stability. Secondly, we aren't always going over large bumps. Oftentimes we're going over little bumps. Now in that case, what our shock does is its primary function is to keep contact between the tire and the pavement. Now, sometimes it's bouncing, sometimes we just don't have enough weight on that tire. And in either case, we basically are losing a little bit of our traction. Now, we might notice that if we hit a little pothole or something, the car might dart to one side, especially if we're in a turn. But even worse is if we are not maintaining really good contact between the road and the tire, our stopping distances are extended greatly. Now, the great deception in all of this is that if we're driving on a normal day, we're going to work, we're going to school, we're going to the grocery store, our shocks and struts will provide wonderful comfort for us. It's working great. But when we need them the most is when weak shocks will let us down. So, for example, we're white-knuckling it because traffic's backed up and we have to stop quickly. The kid jumps off the curb on his bike and we got to maneuver around him. Or we've just had a wonderful weekend with our family. We're cruising home. We're going down the mountain roads. There's a nice little drizzle of rain coming down. Or the classic is, it's Thursday, we're tired, we're trying to get home from work, and we get off the freeway just a little too fast. And now we're having to try to make that off-ramp. So that's when, under one of those conditions, that we either bump into the car in front of us, or maybe we drift into the curb, or worse. So that's the big deal, is that's when we regret not having done our weak shocks or struts, because those situations very well could have been avoidable. So how do we check the condition of them? Well, first of all, we're going to drive the vehicle under as many different road conditions as possible. And that's where you, as the daily driver, can really help with that. Because if you pay real close attention to a lot of those things I talked to you about, you may know that they are weak. Now, it can be a little deceiving because it happens kind of slowly over time, so it's not super noticeable. That's why you got to really focus on it. Next, we're going to drive it over some speed bumps. And the key here is to go over the speed bump at just the right speed. So when we're coming on the back side of that speed bump, we want the car to fall. So we go over the speed bump, we let the car fall, it bounces up, and it settles. That's a wonderful shock. We go over that speed bump, we get on the back side, it falls, goes up, falls again, and comes up. Then it's cycled too many times, and that shock or strut is definitely weak. Lastly, we're going to do a visual inspection on it, and we're going to look for fluid leakage. Now, when I say leak, I don't mean a drip, 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 drip. What I mean is we're looking for any form of sweating, any form of wetness, because if that shock has lost any fluid at all, then it is definitely not performing the way it was designed. So the last thing on our list is we're going to ask ourselves, so really, in reality, what's the risk here? How do I measure that? Well, the biggest factor on the risk, I think, is who's driving the car. So first of all, ask yourself, what's your personality? Are you very high energy like Tigger? Or are you much more mellow and a little easier going, not very excitable like Eeyore? So here's the thing to consider. If your life is very busy and you're always running a little bit behind, you're probably going to be at more risk than the driver whose life is a little less stressful, a little more slower paced. Our second category would be the elderly. We know that their reflexes are a little bit slower, so having those tires in contact with the pavement, having the car not roll too much is going to be vital for them. The highest risk category, the most important that I think, is our young drivers. So we're talking about teenagers who've maybe only been driving a year or two. They just don't have much experience. Number one is they do tend to drive a little too fast. They tend to be distracted, and all of us that are watching have probably been teenagers, and let's be honest, we did not necessarily make the best decisions. And then lastly, because of an inexperienced driver, they tend to overcorrect. So a situation happens, and instead of maneuvering properly around it, they'll go too much and then go back. And if you combine that with a vehicle that's swaying a little more than it should because of a weak shock or strut, and it's a high-profile vehicle like a van or an SUV, that's when we have the perfect storm to roll the vehicle, which is very ugly. So there you have it. You know what they do. You know how to test them. You know what your risks are. My goal today was to basically help you become an informed consumer. And so I really hope I've accomplished that goal. And so until next time, basically, I appreciate you watching. Safe travels and blessings to you.